Our third and final video for our August meeting is about goal writing. Sometimes this is one of the most intimidating components of those early weeks of school, figuring out what your annual goal is going to be, how are you going to determine that goal. And so hopefully this presentation will help remove some of those questions, some of the mystery surrounding how you determine what your annual goal should be. It really should be viewed as part of your professional development. It's a process by which you grow as a teacher to address the needs of every student within your classroom. So it requires thought, it requires analysis of data to determine where your focus should be for the year. And so we're going to use the SMART goal process that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. Those of you who have worked in previous divisions, I'm sure that you are familiar with it and have practiced it in those divisions. But the SMART goal process really provides a foundation for writing, analyzing, and achieving your goals, which of course is our ultimate focus. So what does this evaluation cycle look like? You will be evaluated by your administrators several times throughout the year. And so you are a key component of that evaluation cycle. It begins and ends with you. It begins and ends with your own self-assessment, not someone else assessing you, but your own self-assessment. You should engage in a self-assessment process and really analyze both past student learning and your own professional practice. You're going to analyze some baseline data that you have collected on your students. You are going to sit down and analyze that yourself. You're going to sit with your administrator and discuss it with your supervisor. And you will formulate goals based on what the data is indicating. What trends do you see? What gaps in comprehension do you see in your students? What gaps in skills? Skill acquisition is a huge component of what we are seeking to instill in students. It's not just content knowledge. And so for your plan for the coming year, you would determine what would be key actions that you would need to take, what would be key benchmarks that would indicate to you that progress has been made. The third phase is that you would then implement your plan. Once you come up with a plan, you set your goals, you would implement it, and you start to collect evidence. That would be from both formative and summative assessment data, so kind of your informal grading practices. That may be activities done in class. That might be exit tickets. That might be classroom openers. And then your summative assessment data would be your quizzes, your tests, your projects, maybe your performance-based assessments, hands-on where students are demonstrating their knowledge. You would take all of those assessment pieces and continue to track the data and see what the data is highlighting. What is it dictating should be your next steps. And you would sit down with your administrator at the mid-year and you would have a mid-year evaluation. And you will look at your annual goal. What was your annual goal that you determined in August? And how have we made progress to that now that it's November or December? And how are we going to continue to move forward towards the end of the year? What changes do we need to be made in our strategies? What additional data might we need to collect so that we can show progress towards this goal? And then ultimately at the end of the year, you'll have that summative evaluation. And of course, then the next step is for you to take that summative evaluation that your supervisor gives you and self-assess again and think about, okay, how can I move my practice forward in the future so that I can continue to impact student achievement and student growth. Your annual goal and student achievement is a part of every post-observation conference you're going to have in Bedford County Public Schools. Whenever a supervisor comes in and observes your classroom, when you have that post-observation conversation, one of the key components you'll be looking at is student achievement. How are you tracking student progress? What was your goal and how are you making progress towards it? So you'll revisit that annual goal frequently. It's not just something you'll write in August and not look at again until November and not look at it again until May. You will be looking at it frequently and always referring back to it, making changes, making tweaks as possible. Again, you can see it's a part of your teacher's summative performance report. Here's kind of some additional bullets of what that performance standard consists of, and then your administrator can add specific comments about how you've met that standard. How have you used evidence to formulate your lesson plans? How have you, what evidence have you gathered that supports that your goals have been met? What intervention strategies have you implemented? And then you can see the rating scale that they will use to provide feedback. So what are SMART goals? Of course, goals are something that you want to achieve in the future. They help to get us focused in what to make a priority, because we mentioned earlier that you're going to be overwhelmed. You're going to feel like you're floundering because there's going to be so many things to do, and there's only but so many minutes and hours in a day. And so how do we prioritize what you're going to do in that 45 minutes of instruction, or that 90 minutes of instruction, or that 15-minute block that you have? And so SMART goals help us define exactly what the desired outcome is, and how are we going to measure it, and how are we going to work towards it. So there's a couple of key components of what a SMART goal is. And the first of those is specificity. We have to target a specific student population, and we have to have specific goals. And so your annual goal should talk about who's involved, who are you targeting, what are you hoping to accomplish, where is this going to be done, when, what's the time frame. Maybe you're going to have several mini goals within a larger goal. So maybe by the end of Q1, what are you going to have accomplished? By Q2, what are you going to have accomplished? And when I say Q1 and Q2, I simply mean we have 4 quarters within our academic year. So Q1 is after the first quarter. What requirements or constraints are going to be involved? And then why are you doing this? What is the purpose? What's the benefit of accomplishing this goal? So specificity is a first piece of it. Next, obviously, we want our goal to be measurable. What is going to be the evidence that you're going to need to secure? When we think about if our goal is measurable, does it say how much? Does it say how many? Are you going to know when it's been accomplished? And we'll look at a couple of sample goals at the end that maybe are missing that measurable component. This is a quote by Rosenholz, who's an author on motivation and school leadership. And you can see that if you don't have a clear, concise, measurable goal, that can either dictate success or failure, or the worst, mediocrity. I think being mediocre might be worse than outright failure. So we always want to be moving forward. If you're not moving forward, then you're stagnant. And so we always want to be growing our students, growing ourselves. Is the goal attainable? And so thinking about, is it doable? Is it action-oriented? What are the outcomes? Who is responsible for doing what? Maybe if you're in a collaborative classroom, maybe there are specific intervention strategies that you're responsible for as the general classroom teacher, or maybe some that you're responsible for as the special ed teacher in the classroom. And so what are those action verbs? What are people going to be doing to make sure that we accomplish the goal? Is it doable? Is the objective realistic? Is it something that you can work towards? Is it rigorous? And so maybe you're saying students will increase scores by 10%. What is that benchmark that you're going to look for? And do you believe in it? Is it something that the data has dictated is necessary, but also you believe is necessary? Is it something that, the data has brought this to light, but yeah, it's not really something that I've bought into, that I believe is important for my kiddos to master? And is it timely? And so again, you have to have that time frame. And the time frame should be public, so that way people can hold you accountable. Sometimes we have data trackers in the classroom. Of course, we want to protect student privacy, but certainly you could have data trackers on a bulletin board so that students can track their own progress. You can track their progress, and everybody's aware of it. It's, the progress isn't kept a secret. They're aware of it. When we measure it, it gets done. It helps you stay on track. It helps you reach your targets. And it kind of spurs on that excitement. Again, those data trackers, if kids own their data, they own their learning, they can identify gaps and know, okay, I missed this strand of the standard. I haven't had enough practice with this skill in the shop or in the gymnasium. So you kind of have 2 different types of goals. Your student learning goals, that's based on their performance data and their growth. And then you should have your own professional goal. What are you going to work on as a professional? What's one of your weaknesses? So goal alignment. Obviously, you want to make sure that your specific annual goal for yourself is aligned with the district mission, the district vision. You want to make sure that it's aligned with your school's mission and vision statement. You want to make sure that it is aligned with your classroom goals. What is the goal for your classroom? And what is the goals of your students? What's going to help them, be successful? And of course, the mission of Bedford County Public Schools is that we're empowering learners for future success. And our vision is that students and learners can make informed decisions about how, where, and when to learn, that they're aware of their progress, that they're participating in community-based projects, that they're earning credentials, kind of workplace readiness skills, and that they're utilizing technology and they're having the opportunity to be innovative in and out of the classroom. So again, we've got to consult the data. You can't write a SMART goal without looking at your data from kind of pre-assessments and figuring out what are the specific needs of improvement. So again, you can go to the Bedford County Public Schools homepage under the Human Resources tab, access the Human Employee Handbook, and look at the goals form. You will see that you've got to complete the top form and submit it to your administrator, and then you will have your kind of your first meeting, that mid-year conference in February, and then the end of the year has got to be held by May. And again, your administrator in your building will share specific deadlines that they have set of when they want your annual goals submitted to them and when they will schedule those initial meetings. But you will review it with them. So again, settings 1, 2, 3, and 4 is what you'll be filling out. You'll describe the specific setting, your content area, your baseline data, and your goal statement. What do you want kids to accomplish? What's the baseline data showing? Where are they now and where are they going? And how are you going to get them there? So that's step 5. What are the specific interventions that you're going to implement? And then 6 and 7, of course, is what you'll fill out when you have your mid-year review with your administrator and your end-of-year review with your administrator. So again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. You can talk to a colleague or a mentor and look at specifically what would that look like. A neighbor can show you what did their annual goal form look like year before, so you can kind of see what should you include in your content area, in your baseline data when you describe your student population. What sorts of things should you describe? And again, when you think about what your interventions are, you want to think about your tiers. Tier 1 students, those strategies is when you're meeting most of the kids. 75 to 80% of your kids are going to fall in that Tier 1 instruction, core instruction. Tier 2, those kids are, they've got some risks for academic failure, and so you've got to do some small group instruction. And then Tier 3 kids, those are your high-risk kiddos, and so they may need one-on-one instruction or, pairs, working with them very, very kind of on an individual basis. These are some examples of goals that are not SMART. Teachers will meet together to plan units. They'll increase their attendance rates, and that's a great goal to increase attendance rates. We want to do that. That's linked to the new requirements from the state, but that's not a SMART goal. We're going to use our pacing guides. We're going to use benchmark testing results. Those are not SMART. They're not measurable. They don't have action verbs in them. It doesn't have a specific time frame, and so those are not SMART goals. Here's a couple of examples of SMART goals. The percentage of all my special needs students scoring in the proficient category on the math test will increase by 10% from the last math test that they took. A PE goal, that all students will increase their physical fitness, with 85% of students performing at or above the 50th percentile on all 5 components of that. Again, I'm going to increase automaticity of addition and subtraction of math facts by 10% within the first half of the school year. Again, you see it's very specific, it's measurable, it gives you a time frame, it's realistic, and then you would have specific strategies of how you're going to achieve this goal. If you have any questions about goal writing, feel free to email me. Again, I'm Sherry Weiss, and you can email me for questions. I want to share a couple of other things really quickly with you. Sarah Danaher is our supervisor of mathematics, and she oversees, of course, several programs. Whether you're a math teacher or not, you all should have access to PowerSchool Assessment Analytics. This is formerly Interactive Achievement, if you know it better by that name. So the analytics side, all teachers, regardless of your content area, can view student data. And then if you want to create assessments in this program or use assessments that other teachers have created, math, English, science, and social studies teachers have access to that. MobyMax and iExcel, you can see who has access to it. You should get an automated email from these programs if you have access to them by Friday, August 10th. If you do not get an automated email, please email Sarah Danaher, and you can see her email here at the top to let her know that you don't have access to iExcel or don't have access to MobyMax. And again, that's just if those programs are relevant to you. We'll come back to this. I'll create another short video about what is your word in just a minute. So we'll come back to that. So again, email Sarah Danaher if you have any questions about access to these programs.